Hello. Can everybody hear me? Anybody in here? Yeah, Steven, it's live. How are you? Doing all right. Just trying to tweak a few things and wait for some other people to get in here before I really start going on about the topics that I want to cover. So, what are you up to, Steven? I will definitely keep it saved after the stream ends and I'll upload it. Have a good day, my friend. Uh, let's see. All right, nobody's in here quite yet. Hi, James. How you doing, buddy? You should get your hair get your hair dyed pink. That would be awesome. Are you currently on your way to get your hair cut, or are you getting ready to go out? All right. Yeah, I'll talk to you soon. All right. I see you. How's my audio? Okay. I just wanted to make sure. So, what are you cleaning? No, I said, what are you cleaning? Everything. Everything. Uh, okay, I see there's two users in here. Salty, are you still in here? Hey, Pat. Salty was just in here a minute ago. I don't know where he went. That's strange. It doesn't show you in the. There you are. It's weird though. It doesn't show you guys in the chat log, in the user log. It's strange. I've never seen that before. Scrubbing the front yard. Um, Actually, it only lists, as far as I can tell, it only lists one name in there. That's somebody that was chatting with me when I first went live a few minutes ago. Mowing my carpet. That has many different meanings. In any case, though, do you guys have any knowledge of any of the topics? It's my channel. I can be inappropriate, or kind of. um, Based on the topics that I have listed for this, do you have any knowledge of what's going on in general? So I was originally going to do a video on this, but I figured kind of a back and forth just to exchange kind of thoughts and ideas would be better. Um, are you guys familiar with the show Ridiculousness on MTV? All right, Stilo Brim, the guy that runs the little thing that does the videos for Rob. All right, so he was on presumably what I think is a podcast recently, and they were talking about the whole R. Kelly thing. I only heard a clip of it, so I don't know the extent of the conversation. But the clip that I heard, he was talking about um, what he perceived as sort of hypocrisy because everybody was talking about, um, boycotting all of R. Kelly's music and this, that, and the other. And then they got into talking about the documentary that is either on HBO or Showtime or one of those two channels that is dealing with, I guess, new old allegations against Michael Jackson. And he was talking about the fact that if people are going to like accuse and boycott R. Kelly, they need to, go further and boycott, Michael Jackson. And then for some odd reason, he brought up Elvis. Now, obviously, I'm too young to have been around in the days of Elvis, but I guess there were whisperings back in the day that Elvis had certain relations with people he shouldn't have. So Stilo was talking about boycotting their music as well. But my thought process when I heard this was there's cause and effect to everything. And I feel like boycotting R. Kelly's music, it'll hurt him essentially where it counts. It'll hurt him in his wallet. Um, and it'll have a direct impact on him. As far as Michael Jackson and Elvis, I think at this point, the only people that stand to be hurt by people boycotting the music of Elvis and the music of Michael Jackson are the surviving family members. And hey, Brett. Um, so I feel like like I said, the only people that stand to be hurt by um, boycotting either or Jackson's music or Elvis's music is their surviving family members. So I don't really understand the logic in going so far as to suggest like a mass ban or boycott of all of this stuff when I don't really think it's going to have the desired outcome that they're hoping for. What do you guys think? Well, no. What he's suggesting is that if you're going to boycott R. Kelly, you need to boycott Michael Jackson and Elvis. And my issue with that is R. Kelly is still alive. It will have a direct impact on him if you boycott his music. When you boycott Elvis or Michael Jackson, you are essentially damaging their remaining estate and their surviving family members. So Stilo was suggesting to a blanket boycott. There have been whispers over the years that Elvis was inappropriately linked with people that were not of the age of consent. And well, to your point, Pat, um, growing up, my mom had always told me you should be able to separate the art from the artist. Like you can appreciate the art that they create, and you can support the art that they create without really fully supporting the artist as a person. Like you can love what they do as as their craft, but you can disagree with them as a person. Well, and I mean, I get what you're saying, Pat, but it's the contrast of R. Kelly. Yes, is still only accused. He hasn't really been, and yes, he's been charged, but he hasn't fully been found guilty. Whereas Michael Jackson was charged or accused, charged, and went through trial, but beat both cases. So there's really no grounds, even if he did do something, there's no grounds that prove that. So that, I mean, like I said, there's cause and effect with, each instance, like, R. Kelly, Michael Jackson, Elvis. And I think they have to realize that the cause and effect is different when the artist is living as opposed to when they're not living. Well, to that point of, weird stuff, do we actually know that he's done weird stuff, or are we listening to the media? Because there's a creator here on the platform. His name's Michael McCrudden, and he was talking about um, Michael Jackson after the Leaving Neverland documentary started. And he was saying that that whole term back in the 90s and early 2000s, wacko jacko, that was actually something that the British media came up with. And because everybody felt like they could trust the media, they just ran with it, and everybody started, calling him that. There has never been any concrete evidence to prove that he did any of the things that he was accused of doing. And that's exactly what I'm saying, Brett. Um, I think, like I said, boycotting their music when they are no longer alive hurts their surviving family members. Pat, are you on your computer yet, or are you on the phone? Oh, I was going to say, if it's the phone, it might be just a connection issue. Um, my phone doesn't do so well, even though it's the S9. It still doesn't do so well if I'm watching a live stream on there, so I try not to. Um, there was other notes that I wanted to pull up. For me, I know it's probably going to be controversial to use this particular phrase, but for me personally, I'm not necessarily what one would call a religious person, but there's always been this phrase since I was growing up. I think I'm probably going to get it wrong, but I think to paraphrase, um, the sins of the father are not the sins of the son, something to that effect. And I feel like if there's a boycott of artists who are no longer with us, it's punishing the family for the perceived sins of the father, so to speak. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Brett. Because that was one of the other bullet points that I wanted to bring up. Or back to what I said a couple minutes ago about the British media calling Michael Jackson Wacko Jacko. Nobody in like no, it wasn't an everyday Joe that came up with that. It was the media that donned him that, and everyday people who are trusting of the media ran with that. So it instantly just shot his credibility. And I agree with Pat as well, Brett. Because I think there was another thing that Stilo brought up when he was on the podcast. He said something about um, John Lennon. I guess there were reports at some point that John Lennon used to abuse Yoko. See, I don't think any of us were alive back then. I could be wrong. I don't know the age of everybody in here. I'm young. I think Britney's still the youngest one in here, though. Who's he that you're talking about, Brett? Who's he that you're questioning? John Lennon died the I think the year I was born, 1985. I think there's only, as far as I know, there's only two remaining Beatles: Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr. But in any case, I don't. I feel like it's almost like bringing up all these people that Stilo was trying to not necessarily justify the actions that they were presumed to have taken, but to defend them or make an example of how we're not going far enough. All right, let's stay on topic. I'm pretty sure you can find it here on the platform. I'm not, or I think that's where I found it. Let me see if I can pull it up on my phone. I don't know if he used those specific words, but he was basically going on about, if we're going to boycott R. Kelly, we need to boycott these other people. And he mentioned a bunch of other people that were dead. And I don't think the actions that he was speaking of taking were relevant to the people who were dead. I don't think they would have had the same effect. I don't know. I don't know where that video is of Stilo. He could be saying that, and to the point I made earlier about, separating the art from the artist, I can agree with him if that's the point that he was trying to make, that, what's good for the goose is good for the gander kind of thing. Literally, the only thing I listen to from R. Kelly is I Believe I Can Fly from the Space Jam soundtrack. Brittany, how do you not know any of this? Yeah, that was R. Kelly that made that. I stay secluded. Well, sweetie, you have the internet. You can look these things up. it just it was weird to me what he seemed, at least from my perception, what he seemed to be suggesting. Just because there is so much outrage culture right now. Like if somebody who is influential, like Stilo, says, we should, if we're going to boycott A, we should boycott B and C, it would almost seem to me like the people who follow him would then go out and do that. But then they would get mad that their boycott didn't have the effect that they wanted it to have. It's not Google that tells you you have cancer, it's WebMD. Yeah, I've got to find it. I don't know where I saw it. Like, um, that may be how I have my chat set up. I don't know. Um, as far as, and I know probably everybody's going to be kind of all over the map on this particular thought. As far as the media goes, where do you guys stand individually as to what you actually believe and don't believe when it comes to them? Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Pat, because one of the things I wrote in my notes, I remember growing up with, even though they still exist, um, tabloid magazines. Um, and I think it was always just kind of assumed that we were going to, not believe the tabloid magazines because we knew that they were writing stories just to get people to buy their publication. And I think it's gone from, tabloids being, physical things that you can hold to being online. And for some reason, in that transition, people automatically started thinking that, oh, now that it's online, it must be true. Britney Spears is a good example as far as what, Brett? Exactly, Samantha. That's exactly what I was trying to say. Um, and it's I don't know. It's weird because it doesn't. I don't think that you should be able to have a reporter's job without being held to a standard of vetting your sources. Because even in school, when you write a report, you have to have a citation page, depending on how long your report is. You have to have a citation page with the most accurate citations. It's ridiculous. You're absolutely right, Sam. I remember that because I hated doing citation pages purely because it was too time consuming. Um, I would just photocopy the sources and staple them, and I still got marked down for it. Yeah, absolutely. Um, but I think in the media now, especially with it being attacked on a daily basis, its credibility being attacked on a daily basis, um, they're struggling to put forth this narrative that they're still relevant, and I don't think they are. Um, because I think the minute that they started considering what Kim Kardashian was wearing as newsworthy, I think that's where they kind of fell off the cliff. And see, to a certain extent, Britt, I agree with you because I was having a discussion the other day where I had talked to a friend of mine and I was saying how I won't necessarily watch national news or world news, but I'll watch my local stations because as far as my local stations go, they report the news as it's given to them. They don't express opinions and try to sway their viewers to one side or the other. They don't try to convince their viewers to think one thing or something else. So that's why I think local media is fine because they're not beholden to the people that, you know, basically pay for their broadcast through advertising. Whereas you have things like Fox, not necessarily Fox, but CNN and MSNBC, where they are very beholden to the people that advertise on their channel. So they're very biased in one direction. Yeah, absolutely, Sam. And I think you're one of the rare ones because I don't often hear that anymore. That people are willing to look it up themselves. There are still too many people that are just kind of comfortable believing whatever is put in front of them. Do I think what, Sam? Oh, I absolutely think that there is tons of proof that CNN and MSNBC are extremely beholden to their advertisers, um, because one of the things, just to kind of give a little context, um, the reason that I started my YouTube channel was because I was tired of people not being willing to have a conversation. But my goal with trying to get the 1,000 subscribers and the 4,000 hours of watch time so I can monetize my content, I want to use the monetization money to help fund a nonprofit camp that I want to develop. That being said, when it comes to nonprofits, you are not allowed to hold a specific position on anything, especially if it is of a political nature, because um, you can lose your um, nonprofit accreditation and you can lose your tax exempt status if you are a nonprofit organization and you support a specific um, political candidate, or you are beholden to a specific ideology. That is not the same as uh, that's not the same as a for-profit company. They're able to have a free for all and support whoever they want. I think when it comes to business, whether it's for profit or nonprofit, I don't think they should be able to support political candidates or a certain side of the aisle, so to speak, because I think that if they are a company that has a diverse workforce of people who think differently, they're going to end up alienating part of their workforce. Um, so I mean, when it comes to corporate, whether, like I said, whether it's for profit or nonprofit, I just don't think they should be allowed to support anything of a political nature, that would put them on one side of the aisle or the other. Unless you're a religious organization, but that's a completely different, animal, so to speak. But I don't understand why the media thinks that it has the right to run amok like it does, and just find stories and report them in such a way that it gets them ratings, rather than reporting the story as it is to inform people. Well, and that's the problem, Brett, is it's because they'll watch it. But there's no integrity in that. And I would think that any news reporting outlet would want to have integrity over ratings. Well, if you think about it, Brett, that's really all we are shown. And especially because of social media, we've essentially become masochists, and we like to see, you know, other people get torn down. And it's because of the entertainment world and the media. Yeah, that's exactly right, Samantha. Yeah. That's why I've stopped watching like the national news or worldwide news. And I've stuck to my local stations that only have a fraction of their broadcast, devoted to, national or world news. I think local stations are held to a better standard. They're not allowed to run amok with a story like a national or worldwide organization. That actually brings me to my next point. I'm sure that all of you in here are aware of the stuff going on with the college admissions scandal. Yeah, you might be right, Brittany. I think I did. Um, Salty, um, the college admissions scandal that they're talking about in the national news, where celebrities in Hollywood are paying people to get their kids into Ivy League schools. Um, One of the things, I don't know if any of you, yeah, you're right. Some kids didn't know that their parents were doing it. Um, but um, it came out yesterday, and I had completely forgotten about this. In regard to Lori Loughlin, who played Aunt Becky on Full House, she's one of the ones in Hollywood who's being accused right now, because of a video that her own daughter put out on Instagram. Um, One of the things that I had forgotten about, there was an old episode of Full House where um, Jesse and Rebecca had tried to get their twin sons into a preschool, and they tried to pay their way in. So it seems weird that Lori Loughlin played that storyline in a role on TV and is now playing that out in real life. That just blew me away. You're absolutely right, Ginger. You are absolutely right. And when you have people like everyday people like myself or you guys, when you have people who are arguing with each other that oh, you know because you're this, you're entitled or whatever. They don't realize, especially with the Democratic Party, 99.9% of Hollywood votes Democratic. The problem is the Democratic Party is the one telling everybody else that we're all entitled and that we all have these privileges and whatnot. They don't acknowledge that their voter base, which is Hollywood, are the ones that are entitled and perpetrating these acts. They won't acknowledge that. I don't understand who they're trying to uh, you know who they're trying to help by not acknowledging that it's happening on their own side. And see, I never grew up with a lot of money. I never wanted or needed for anything, but I was never really one to want anything either. But like my mom had told me at one point that although we were never impoverished, we never really had a lot of money when I was growing up. And it shocked me when she said that. It's like I never wanted or needed for anything though. Like I, had everything I needed. So I didn't consider myself, lower class. And I think it boils down to living within your means and being willing to live within your means and not, want for things that are extravagant and unnecessary. It's free to a certain extent, Brett. The one thing that they don't talk about is somebody pays for it, because if college was entirely free, their teachers would be volunteers. And I don't think that teachers should be or would be volunteers. So it can't be completely free. Somebody's got to be paying for it. Right. We pay for it through our taxes, but imagine how much your taxes would go up if you were paying the entire bill for everybody to be able to go to college. We would end up being a third world country. I just, as far as the whole scandal with Lori Loughlin and Felicity Huffman and all of them that's happening right now, I just hope that they're held to a standard where they have to pay for what they did. Um, just like with the Jesse Smollett thing, I really hope that if they find that he is truly guilty, I hope that they make him pay for what he did. But statistically, from what we've seen when it comes to Hollywood, they get a slap on the wrist. I just think that there are too many people that don't realize that their neighbor is probably just as equal to them in what they're going through, and that the real issue is, Hollywood and politicians. And you've got politicians that are making, hundreds of thousands of dollars, almost up to, millions of dollars, telling their voters that their neighbors are the issue. Um, are any of you guys on here familiar with a YouTuber by the name of Tim Pool? He is, I believe he's a little bit younger than me, so he's early 30s. Um, he is actually an award-winning journalist who used to work for several publications, and now he just, does news commentary on his own channels. Um, but he talks about, like, he used to work for the TV channel Vice. He used to do reporting for them, and I believe it was either Vice or one of the other outlets that he worked for. Eventually, they shifted their focus as to what stories they covered. And when he asked them why they were shifting their focus from what they had established their company on, they said, "We're covering what the public wants us to cover, and we want to, give them the stories that they want." But that came at a price, because they ended up giving their readers the narrative that they wanted as well. Weren't they were no longer reporting the stories factually. They were giving their readers the narrative that the readers were looking for. So he left them, or he left the organization and went independent. And he's one of, other than Philip DeFranco, he's one of the only other ones on here that I trust when it comes to, talking about the news. What's a huge issue? Yeah, facts are necessary. You're absolutely right. Um, but like we were saying earlier, national and global um, news outlets, they're more focused now and they're more concerned with a narrative rather than, reporting with integrity. And I think that, that's a huge, like you said, it's a huge problem, but they're fighting back so aggressively to make themselves sound like they are in the right that people really don't know who to trust anymore. Do I still have everybody in here? Or did we lose you? um, One of the things, and actually, Tim Pool, who I was talking about, I follow him on Twitter, and I tweeted at him earlier, and he puts out probably 8 to 10 videos a day talking about different news stories because he has two different channels. And um, I tweeted at him and I asked him, I'm like, you put out so much content in the course of a day. How do you preserve your voice so that it's not shot completely to hell by the end of the day? And obviously he hasn't gotten back to me yet. But with me, it's like, I do one video a week or I do something like this, and I can guarantee that when I stop this live stream, my voice is going to be non-existent until at least probably Monday. That I'm not entirely sure about, Brett. Um, you can have your main channel and what I guess they call a branded channel. Um, but I don't know. Like the first time I ever had a YouTube channel was back in 2012, and somehow it ended up being a branded channel, and I don't know what that meant. But at the beginning of 2018, I deleted that channel and created this one, and I've been more active on this one than I was on my previous one because I started in 2012, and then I don't think I only ended up uploading 20 videos, and that was in the course of a month, and then I never touched it again. But yeah, I'm interested once I stop the live stream. I'm interested to see how long my voice sticks around before it just goes out the door. Um, Although I actually thought this was going to end up being a 2-hour live stream, we seem to kind of circulate through the topics pretty quick, probably because there's only been 3 or 4 people in here at a time. Um, but there's really only one topic I wanted to cover and get your opinions on. Um, so probably another 30 minutes or so. Um, what is your opinion when you hear the term marginalized group, talking about like a marginalized group of people? I was like, wait, chicken pox? um, one thing that has, it, you're absolutely right. As a social construct, you're absolutely right, Brett. Um, for me, being somebody who's in a wheelchair, I've always been told, or at least I've been told more so than I thought I ever would, that I am part of a marginalized group, being a special needs individual. And it always struck me as weird to have people tell me that because I never felt marginalized. I've never been treated as if I was marginalized. And it made me wonder if politicians use that term as part of their narrative to get voters to be loyal to them. Like, I feel like the people who tell us that we are marginalized are the ones that are marginalizing us, if that makes sense. Because just to give you some context, one of my local news stations, they posted a story, I think it was yesterday, and they were talking about an older woman uh, who had gone missing or something of that nature. Um, and they had said that, she had been found, but they said a special needs woman who had previously been missing has been found. And for me, like, when you hear me talk about myself, you'll never hear me refer to myself as disabled or handicapped because I don't feel like those words describe me, because I think they are limiting, um, in the message that they convey. I don't consider myself either of those words because there's literally nothing I am incapable of doing. I just do things differently. The only two things that I say that I'm incapable of doing are enlisting in the military and, bearing a child. But I can't bear a child simply because I'm male, not female. Um, and it feels like, and I know that if anybody in here, votes one way or the other, they're probably going to get it a little bit scratchy when I say this. But it seems like the only side that talks about marginalized groups or making people feel like they are marginalized is the Democrats. And it's like, I don't, I want to know why these people who vote for the Democrats allow these politicians to tell them that they are marginalized. I think marginalization is a frame of mind. I don't think it actually exists. It may exist up here, but I don't think it actually exists in the grand scheme of things. I'm just curious what you guys think. Plus, I got to give my voice a little bit of a rest. I'm just going to let you guys respond and then I'll respond to you. Salty, if you heard what I was saying, would you mind reiterating what I said? Okay, it's probably better. Britt, what is the last thing you heard me say before the kiddo fell? I'm trying to get an idea as to what the last thing that Brittany heard so I can either pick up. Okay. So obviously, like I said, I don't consider myself disabled or handicapped because those terms seem limiting to me because there's nothing I can't do other than, you know, enlisting in the military or bearing a child. Obviously, I can't bear a child because I'm a dude. But I feel like politicians who are trying to get voters, they want to make you think that you are something that they can help you with, when in reality, you're not actually that thing. Like, they are the ones that are marginalizing you, and you're not really at a disadvantage like they say you are. They're just marginalizing you for the sake of, getting you to agree and align with them. Because, like I said, I've never felt like I was a marginalized person. I think that's absolutely stupid. You know, I think that's the exact definition of, victimhood. And I've never felt like a victim of my circumstances. I just look at my circumstances and I wonder, how I can improvise to improve my circumstances, because everybody has circumstances. It's just whether it's just how you approach them. Um, One of my videos on my channel, um, don't judge a book by its cover. Um, First, I would encourage you to go read that. Sorry, shameless promo. Um, but basically, it's a story time video that I did about when I worked in um, American Eagle, and um, this it was literally Black Friday, so I was already stressed out because we had just hordes of people coming in, and you had me in a wheelchair being stuck in one place. I could not move because there was so many people in this small store. Um, this older lady and her much older mother came into the store. The older lady um, had to be mid 50s, I think. Her mother was between 85 and 90. And I shit you not, the mother looked at me, and I hope anybody who's watching this is sitting down right now, because you're either going to fall on the floor or your jaw is going to hit the floor. This old lady looked at me and said, "It's so nice to see that they let your kind work with the public." And I just kind of looked at her. I did not know how to respond because I had never had that said to me. And for anybody that knows me, on a very personal basis, they know that it is absolutely impossible for you to offend me because of the stuff that comes out of my own mouth. Um, so this didn't necessarily offend me when she said it, because the logic in my head was able to determine, okay, she's coming from it. The logic in my head was able to determine she's coming from a different, generation, where people that had physical or mental conditions, such as myself, we were put in institutions because they deemed us not capable of being able to contribute to society. So I understand where she was coming from, but like I said, I had never experienced somebody saying that to me, so it shocked me. Yes, Idiocracy. I haven't seen that movie yet, and everybody yells at me for it because I haven't seen it. But like my boss at the time heard this lady say that to me, and she saw me freeze. Like, she knew that I wasn't going to say anything nasty to the lady because it's just not my style. So she knew that it caught me off guard. So she looked at me. Um, yeah, Idiocracy is a movie. My manager looked at me because she had seen me kind of in shock. She looked at me and she goes, "Ryan, go to lunch." And I'm like, okay, because she knew I had to cool down. Um, and so I went to lunch for about an hour, and I came back. Turns out she actually told the lady and her mother that they were no longer allowed in the store because they didn't, or she didn't approve of customers being rude to employees. And it shocked the hell out of me that she did that. I was grateful, but I was shocked because nobody had ever done that for me. But yeah, I would definitely encourage you to go watch that video. Okay, why are we talking about prophecies now? I think I'm lost. Oh yeah, idiocracy, it's definitely happening. I just wish Terry Crews was more involved. I mean, if you really think about it, Salty, Terry Crews as president, that needs to happen. That just needs to happen. Oh, Brittany, you have so much to learn. Terry Crews is an American actor. Yeah, but from what I've seen of Idiocracy, um, yeah, it's starting to happen. But I don't want to get too political, so we'll kind of, at least American political. I don't want to get too political. Um, but Brittany, what were you saying regarding Trudeau? What is he doing now? Like I know you and I had a discussion about him recently, but is he doing more that's stupid? It's it's weird that he is literally coming to a different country to get away from the people that don't like him. When Trump gets away, he literally only goes to Florida. Like he goes from Washington D.C. to Florida because he has property in Florida. I don't know if he's besties with Trump. He's criticized Trump quite a bit, at least based on what our media reports. Because there's a thing that you guys up there probably know about it as well. NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. Um, Now there is um, I forgot what it's called now. They Trump got rid of NAFTA and signed a new deal between the United States, Mexico, and Canada, and they have a new trade agreement. But Trudeau, at least in the beginning, was very, very critical of how Trump was handling that, as far as my knowledge of it goes. That's weird that you didn't know that there was a new trade agreement that was signed that involved Canada. What do they tell you on the news up there? God, they don't let you guys have Netflix, or what is it, Netflix or Hulu, that they don't let you guys have. They don't let you have one of them. They don't tell you about trade agreements. What do you guys know about your own country up there? Wow. See, because we down here, we question all the time, or the majority of us question all the time what we're not being told. Wait, what about Napoleon? I'm really lost now. Wow, they made you waste that much time on Napoleon? That's crazy. But all right, being that the chat has died down and I've basically covered everything I had listed, I think I'm gonna take the opportunity to end the chat here, just because we've been running for 90 minutes already. So I'm gonna end it here, and we will start another one sometime next week. I'll talk to you guys soon.